You know, I was just talking with somebody and they told me that they know people and they too have some fears about role playing, specifically in tabletop role playing games and other things like that. And the funny thing is that role play is really as second to us as making a decision. I mean, we constantly think outside of the box on a daily basis whenever we're trying to figure out what it is that we want to do. Do we want takeout or do we want to cook home tonight? What is that going to be like? And then we put ourselves into imaginary situations and we arrive at resolutions based on that. And when we were kids, we all played make believe, and back then it didn't matter if we were the $6 million man. I mean, back in my day, or Spider Man or Iron Man, or if you were a world class athlete, or if you were a firefighter, or if you were a Tonka truck driver, or GI Joe. Whatever we were in that moment is exactly who we were, and there was no judgment in that whatsoever. And it seems like so many of us as adults have lost that. I mean, as of this, I'm about to turn 53, and I'm playing make believe all the time. I mean, how fun is that? So, if you ever really feel like you're afraid of being judged because you're going to play a role playing game and you don't know if you're playing it right, or your character is not going to be what other people feel that it should be, I have news for you. Your creation is yours. Your creation is the most perfect version of what you can create, and any voice, even if it's just your normal voice, that then becomes the character's voice, and that becomes the character's perfect voice, because no one can do it better than you. That is your character. You can't ever be any better than what you are. And so sometimes you really have to be honest with yourself and just say, hey, you are enough. I am enough. If I want to role play and I want to play an elven bard, or I want to play an elven wizard, or like, how often do you see this? A dwarven wizard. Then fuck yeah, go out there, go play it. It's, you don't need to be you don't need to be, to play the really outlandish ancestries or races or classes in order to be something special. Sometimes the greatest of stories are just the smallest of beings that are thrust into the most epic of adventures. And it really is a story of how they came to learn about not only themselves and what they can do when when fate or what have you really deals that character a really crappy hand. But also it becomes a moment of triumph for us as players. I had heard I don't know if it was, I want to say it was a psychologist, but don't take my word for it, look it up, that the adventures that we experience in role-playing games, our primal brain doesn't really understand that is fantasy. And so for those of us who play role-playing games, we're actually tantalizing a part of our brain that has been used since we were alive. Since we really first started to crawl and we first became inquisitive of what is that? What does that do? How do I, were you one of those people that took things apart when you were growing up so that you can find out how it worked and see if you can put it back together? I was, and I almost never put the damn thing back together, but at least I learned from it. I also learned not to do that to my father's pocket watch, but whatever. So, I guess this message is for anybody that ever feels that you can't role play. You've been role playing your entire life. This is just a time when we put a label on it. So, you can role play. Everyone does. It's just called make believe. And no matter what you create, it's going to be perfect, because no one can do your character better than you. So, keep that in mind. If you ever want to try out a role playing game, find somebody, or even better, start up a game and give it a shot. Go out there, go adventure. Just some thoughts for the day.